Hey, everybody, welcome to episode 7 of Marketing Uncensored. I'm Sam Tomlinson.
And I'm Collin Slattery.
This week, the topic du jour AI, fact, fiction, real, fake, what's it doing, what's it not, all the stuff that you wanted to talk about AI. We're going to do
And a
that.
lot of the stuff that you didn't.
All right, so this whole episode got kicked off when Apple, yeah, those guys, the ones who don't do AI, I think the only people in the Mag 7 who don't, released a paper that basically said AI sucks the smarter it gets. Sam Altman's a liar. They didn't really say that, but they implied it. And reasoning models collapse at higher levels of complexity. So, Colin, big question. Is AI real, fake? What's the deal?
Overhyped and underperforming. Yeah, it's Altman and Elon Musk are the same person. They overpromise and underdeliver. So I think
Yeah, I think that's pretty much, I think that's pretty fair. Yeah,
we have automations at home, right? Like
yeah, those humanoid robots are still coming, allegedly, as
I'm
is
I'm sure they are.
Robotaxi.
Yep.
Meanwhile, Waymo quietly doing like 25,000 rides a day
Yeah. I
with
mean,
no incidents whatsoever.
as we've said before, long Google.
Yes. So, I mean, I read it. It basically says the things that I think all of us know, which is when you tell ChatGPT to do stuff, it doesn't really reason. It just predicts the next token. And even when you give it more information, it still doesn't reason. It just predicts the next token, which is
Right.
kind of a problem.
Well, it's useful in the areas that it's useful in, right? Like if you want it to generate language content, great
Mhm.
at that, right? Because that doesn't require reason, really. Creative writing doesn't require that much reason. Sorry to all the creative writers out there, but
Yeah, it turns out.
it's very easy for a large language model to do. Uh, Anything else? Not so much.
Yeah. I mean, I think it comes back to the same thing we said for 3 years, which is it's great in industries where a 5% error rate doesn't matter. And
Yeah,
it's really shitty in industries where the 5% error is all that matters.
yeah. Or in industries where there aren't errors, there's just opinions, right? Like
Right.
writing, writing a headline or a description
You can do that.
or making some schlocky video. Like there's no
Yeah, it's
error,
great at
just
that.
opinion.
Correct. But the second I think you get into places like, do the easy one, right? Law. You can't make up a case citation. That doesn't fly. Judges
What?
get real pissed when you submit a brief to the court and the precedent that you have cited does not, in fact, exist.
So much like the press that's been going around about
Isn't it
all
delightful?
of the fake precedents that get cited in these ChatGPT cases.
Right? Like that. And then, you go to other examples, like I think it was Air Canada, where it hallucinated a refund policy. And a court was like, well, it's an agent of yours, so that's now your policy.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, fair. I don't have an issue with the judge's ruling. I have an issue with don't use ChatGPT as your customer service team. Or if you do, try to train it on your own, you know, refund policy.
Yeah. Um, no, and I think everyone who uses AI experiences this, and I think a lot of people, myself included, look at all of these fucking hype people on Twitter. They're like, "Oh, I'm doing all this stuff with AI," and then they try to get AI to do something simple, like organize data in an Excel sheet,
And it
and it
doesn't work.
hallucinates a million fucking lines of data. And like, why does this not work? And the answer is it's not you. It's that most of the people are lying about what AI can do and cannot do. And a lot of the agentic things that it is supposedly capable of doing, you
It's
can
not.
just do that with Zapier and Integromat.
Right.
Like, it's just we have AI at home, right? It's called Zapier.
Yeah, I think that's the crux of what you get to because you have a lot of CMOs and a lot of CEOs who are on Twitter, who are on LinkedIn, who are seeing this bullshit. And then they're coming back to their agencies or they're coming back to their marketing teams and saying, why can't I replace you all with a series of agents like this asshole on LinkedIn did? And it's like, because that guy was probably lying.
Yeah.
Like he's probably not actually doing that, or he has this, it's the who was the person? There was somebody who demonstrated. It was a Billions episode. There was a Billions episode where they're showing this walking robot, and the one whoever Bobby Axelrod is having his affair with, or whatever, she throws some pet.
Spoilers, my
Yeah,
God.
no, it's fine. I think we're 3 years past the end of Billions, so I think we're good. But anyway, she throws some pencils on the floor and says, "Have the robot walk over it now." And the engineer looks over at the other engineers and they all just shake their head. No, like it's not going to work. The second any obstacle or non very clear path is put in front of it, it just falls over because that's basically what's happening in marketing.
Yeah, I mean, and we see this with all uh, AI stuff in general, right? Like it's all very curated demonstrations, right?
Correct.
Where they have found, you know, the specific use cases that
Mhm.
it's art, right? It's a
Yeah,
performance art piece. Like it is not
it's a good way to put it.
like actual functionality.
Yeah.
It's just it's art. A very convincing art to a lot of people,
Right.
but does not
Well,
reflect reality.
and I think that's the part that most people have not fully internalized yet, because you still have this whole camp of like Luddites over on one side screaming from the hilltops, it's going to destroy civilization, it's going to destroy jobs. And then you have people on the other side of the camp who are saying, really? Because what we see is at best, it's a productivity enabler or a productivity enhancer. But, this is basically saying, I mean, I think the best analogy here is AI at this point is steroids. It will help you work better, work faster, get more from per unit time, or just like steroids help you get more muscle mass per lift, probably banned in some situations, just like steroids. But it's not something that's going to take a person and it's not going to replace a person. It's going to make a smart person better and a dumb person dumber and leave little room in the middle.
Yeah, it makes something that, and not even everything, right? But like might take 5 minutes, take 60 seconds, right?
Yeah, which is
Uh,
great.
but you have to know those use cases. It can also waste time too. And I think there's a lot of people who want to use AI the way that the shady ass people on Twitter say you can, and it ends up wasting more time than if you just
Right.
did it yourself.
Yeah. You see these, and I think that gets into an interesting conversation we had a few years ago now, right? Where if you're running an agency or you're running a company, and we say automate these tasks, but you have to actually do an ROI calculation on, is the investment you're going to make in this AI solution to that task actually worth it? Because the hype people on Twitter would have you believe that everything should be automated. But I think if you sit down and look at it and you say, well, it's going to cost me $20,000 to automate this task that takes a junior employee making 50 grand a year, an hour a week to do, well, that doesn't make any sense.
That payback period is a long
That's a
fucking time.
long ass payback period.
Yeah. And I think that's a good point, and one that I think anyone who's listening and wants to be using AI and doing things with AI, and to be completely transparent, we have an automation slash AI firm, and I put AI in quotes, right? Who helps build automated processes for us, and we run that calculation every time we want to build something. It's like, okay,
Mhm.
how much time are people spending on this thing? How much do I have to spend to make an automation of it? All right, that's gonna pay back in 2 months.
Yep.
Excellent.
Great.
Great. Done. Investment, right? And that is the thought that has to go into anything that you want to automate, especially something that you want to automate that keeps that's like repeatable, right? where it's like, this is part of the workflow. We're going to automate this part of the workflow. Fantastic.
Hmm.
Um, one-off things like great, play with it, but anything you want to build into your system. And the other part too is someone else building that as a standalone tool that is cheaper and is going to be maintained by them and improved by them, which you can just pay
Yeah,
for.
tech debt is a real thing.
Yes. I don't know, we've talked a little bit about AI more generally. I would be curious about maybe like use cases that we do see being effective, that we do actually use internally, not hype stuff, but stuff that, actually are using regularly.
Yeah. So I had a newsletter about this a little bit ago.
Subscribe to Sam's newsletter. It's
Yeah,
the
do
only
that.
one I generally read.
It's a good life choice. You should make good life choices. I mean, the biggest use cases I think we found are, I would say they come into a few buckets. So one is time-consuming tasks where accuracy is helpful but not essential. So competitive intelligence, right? Do I really care if you perfectly summarize their landing page? No. Do I really care if, you've perfectly captured the target audience or the, emotional appeal they're making? No. I need to know the gist. What are they doing? What's the landing page look like? What's the overall offer? And it's good at that, right? It would take a junior level person an hour or two to go through three or four competitors and actually write decent summaries on landing page content, who the real target audience is, like who it's aimed at, what they're leading with in terms of, are they leading with customer testimonials, are they leading with a value prop, are they leading with a benefit, are they going after one specific segment of the audience versus another? It can do that in 5 to 10 minutes if you give it a list. That's a really easy use case that can free up your team, and if they have questions they can always go back and actually review the source material. So we have a scanner that just goes through, like for each client, you got a list of competitors. It goes through, it scans it, pulls in the landing page, pulls in any offers on the website, et cetera, and just puts it into a Google Sheet. So you have like an ongoing tracker of what your competitors are doing over time. Have they changed messaging? Have they changed offers? Have they adjusted? Which is really useful. It's a simple use case, but it's a time saver and
Right.
very, very cheap to build, like 2 hours for one of our people on the AI team.
Yeah. And I think that's something that could probably be broadened out because that's similar to our sort of primary use case, which is research assistance, right?
Yep.
On on things that are not mission critical. So,
Hmm.
compiling reviews and organizing the key benefits that people cite in positive reviews and the key, challenges that they have in negative reviews, stuff
Hmm.
like that. You know, any sort of research assistance, broadly speaking, very
Very
helpful
useful.
and good at that. I'll use one from last week because I'm finishing a piece on Google, and I was like, oh, I need their information on like how much revenue went to search and other from all of their quarterly filings over the
All
last
right.
5 years, and it pulled that data. It cited their quarterly filings, and
It
I was like,
mostly got it
great,
right.
they got it all right.
Wonderful.
So I was like, great, perfect, like good for things like that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I mean, that's been good. Some audience insights work it's been pretty good at. We'll use SparkToro pretty heavily to pull some initial data. We'll export those reports in CSV, upload them all, and say, give it a sample for what we want the output to look like. It'd be like based on all this audience data. So SparkToro provides, uh, publications watched, accounts followed, YouTube videos watched, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Create me an audience profile for this audience and in this way. And it's pretty good at that. And it does, for a first pass, it gets you a B. So then a member of the team starting from this draft, they can go and take it the final 20%.
and I think that is a good way to think about AI generally is that you do not get a finished product. It is a stepping stool to
Right.
getting a finished product. It gives you something more complete to start working with than, you know, you're like, oh great, I push the output and it's great, right? It helps with ideation, right? Helps with it's a helper.
100%. Yeah, I mean
It's
the one area is
it's an intern, right?
yeah, it's basically it's infinite interns. That's the joke of AI, right? Like don't trust it to anything you wouldn't trust the intern.
Yeah. And again, it's a
You'll
very
be
cheap
fine.
intern. So,
Yeah,
and
$20 a month.
it's quick.
It's like less than Nick Huber's virtual assistants from the Philippines.
Shout out Shepard. One other use case that I do love with uh, AI in general is helping tweak and modify code. So Google Scripts, we use it to modify Google Scripts all of the time. Super great for that. Specifically, one thing that we did with all of our like reporting scripts is we had it build. And I'm not a programmer, right? And if you're a programmer, you can do this, but if you're not, very easy. So we have webhooks now, so it automatically pushes information into Slack channels instead of emails. So we don't
Oh,
get email
nice.
reports from any of our reporting scripts. We get a nice little notification directly in the Slack channel. So
That's great.
great for
That's
basic code manipulation, I think, as well.
yeah. I mean that makes sense. It's a pretty deterministic output, which should be pretty stable over time. So yeah, good use case.
Yeah.
Nils, eat your heart out, man.
Nils. Shout out Nils.
We do love you. Yeah, well, I mean, there's that. The one area where it's actually been really useful at actually replacing, I would say, higher dollar work is data science. It is actually surprisingly good at things like customer segmentation. It's very good at running like RFM models, like some not advanced statistics, but you can give it a data set and tell it kind of the big picture questions, and it's actually pretty good at recommending the right statistical analysis or the right task to get that answer for you a little bit faster.
Yeah, I think the key there is making sure that you give it the data set, right? If you're, because it will hallucinate data,
Oh, it
but
will make it up.
you
So yes,
can
do not,
give it real
yes,
data. It needs real data, or you're
yes, or
running
you're
into
going to have
trouble.
problems.
Yeah.
Um, Also, it's surprisingly good at cleaning data. Like if you have data that needs to be cleaned or synthesized together, like a good example is, we've had some clients that have multiple CRMs, right? There's like a marketing CRM and there's a sales CRM, and then they have like their financial system that underpins all of it. So terrible IT stack, but this is what happens when you allow purchasing to make decisions. But you can export, you know, the same data from these three systems, right? And tell it like, hey, I need you to join these records together, and here are the primary keys. It's, email address, customer identifier, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And it'll stitch them all together pretty well and pretty quick and tell you which ones don't match up so that you can go figure out like, okay, well, where did this person in the sales CRM actually come from? And figure out that it was this person for marketing. And you can get your data to a point where you're able to do an analysis much faster than if a person did it.
See, and I find this very interesting, and I think this is something also that comes up in AI, which is I have found it to be terrible at that. But it was also the model that you potentially use.
Yes.
It's when the model was released. It's when you tried it. So I probably haven't tried to do that in the last like 4 or 5 months. And it might be good at it now.
Yeah. Shout
Whereas,
out. Yeah.
in February, it hallucinated
It
like
was terrible.
hundreds of lines of like, I'm like, these names and emails don't look real to me. And I was like, these are not in the data set. And they're like, oh, you're right. I did make those up. Let me
That sounds
try it
like
again.
ChatGPT. No, don't trust ChatGPT with this task. Gemini 2.5.
Yeah, we have been migrating over to Gemini.
Love Gemini.
And I think that's another point around just AI in general, which is so much is evolving so quickly from a building system standpoint. Whatever you built 2 months ago on an old AI
Hmm.
model could be completely useless and
Oh,
like a complete
it's
waste of money and time because we're 2 months later and everything's completely different and the models are different and what's best at what task is completely different and you just kind of completely wasted all of the work that you invested in whatever it is you built.
Yeah, I tend to agree. I mean, I also have this very negative feeling about, you talk about basically adapting an existing workflow to a new model, and it's a pain in the ass. And you're like, well, that's like a prompt engineer, and like prompt engineers are an indication of failure. Like we should never have to have prompt engineers. It's the dumbest thing in the world because it just means it's a failure of the user interface. It's a failure of the underlying product. If I need
Well,
to have somebody interpret what I want so the system can do it, no.
yeah, I mean, it speaks to the immaturity of the system still
Yeah.
that, you can't ask a direct question. You have to be like, and don't say this. Like,
Right. I look at it, this is going to sound heretical, but I look at it the same way that, like, I'm in Rome right now, so there's Catholic churches everywhere, where the Catholic Church for like 2,000 years was like, well, you need a priest to translate all of your messages to a superior being. And I'm like, well, if it's really superior, then it already knows what I want. So what the hell is this guy doing in the middle other than collecting a paycheck? Like, if the system is truly a super intelligent thing, then it should not need an intermediary to translate what it is that I want to it. So
no.
to your point, it speaks to the immaturity of the underlying system. It's a failure of the underlying system to achieve the potential that was promised.
It is a talented teenager that knows a little bit about a lot of different things.
Pretty much.
An intern,
Yeah.
a
It's
good
an intern.
intern, but an
Never
intern
complains, but
nonetheless.
also can't get coffee.
Cannot get coffee. Also, like interns, sometimes only half completes the job.
Yeah. But
Like,
none of that has stopped. So we're going to make a quick transition over to the marketing side of this fun. None of that stopped Google and Microsoft and Facebook from putting it all over their ad products.
yes.
So
Love that
we
it's
get,
in the ad products. And by
it's
that, I mean
fantastic.
not so
There is
much.
nothing I like more than going into Google Ads, setting up a campaign, only to be prompted, will that Gemini generate this campaign for you? Like, I would rather just shoot myself, actually.
And I think let's talk about Google because they are the AI leader, right? I think
Oh,
we
yeah,
can,
it's not
uh,
close. It's never going to be close.
and presumably they have the smartest systems in the world,
Mhm.
right? But you look at a search query report for a campaign that is geo-fenced, and you're gonna see queries that include locations fucking everywhere.
Yeah,
So, how smart is their system really if you're like, I'm targeting New York City and you have to negate Bloomington,
Albuquerque.
Indiana, right?
Yeah.
Like, so,
I mean,
how
so
smart are the systems really?
I have I have mixed feelings on this because I've seen what they actually can do, and then I see what they do, and then I look at the incentives, and it makes perfect sense,
Right.
right? Their incentive is not, I think when you look at what their systems can do, they can do incredible things. And if Google tomorrow decided we want to serve only the most relevant ads to the most relevant users, and we wanted to do this in a perfect way, they could do it in 6 months. I have
It's more
zero doubt.
greed than anything else.
But that's not the objective, right? The
Right.
objective is maximize the number of advertisers per auction because we need to grow CPCs in a saturated market. That is the mandate.
Oh, well, and I have research coming out about that today. So,
Oh, perfect.
on
Spoiler
hidden
alert.
search terms. Yeah, should be
But I
good.
mean, that's the mandate.
Sure.
So it's very good at that. It is solving. I think the problem is that people expect it to solve for the relevance thing when Google is solving for the money thing. And
I
then you
mean,
get a shitty search terms report. And then the solution to that is too many
hide the
advertisers are
search
negative
terms.
shit. Hide it. We need a reason. Privacy.
Yep. Hidden
Amazing.
CPCs are uh 56% more expensive with a 42% lower CTR, I think. I'm trying to pull my
Jesus.
I'm trying to pull my research data off the top of my head. Here, let me
Yeah,
actually give you the
that's
number. CPCs are 52% higher for hidden search terms over visible, and CTRs are 44% lower. So privacy, my ass. Um, Monetizing low quality inventory. Totally irrelevant to AI, but well, I guess not really, because AI wants to sell more of that schlock. AI Max for search.
Yeah, 100%. I am um very, very skeptical of AI Max for search. Like very skeptical.
We're testing it, right? Uh, Especially
For sure, for
because
sure.
in general, and this is, I think, a good lesson to take away, is that these big companies do typically include artificial alpha for first movers to make it seem better than it is. I mean, AppLovin did an incredible job with this
Yes.
in terms of like the hype early, last fall. We're like, oh, AppLovin, we're doing amazing, we're doing amazing, and that's because it was a very controlled, closed beta with only the most premium value to generate hype before you open it up to broader adoption. Um, you know,
Yeah,
you will not get the same performance as Ridge because
of course
they
you
get the
won't.
Glengarry leads,
Yes,
right?
they do. They sure do. But I mean, that doesn't mean there is no alpha left. It just means you're not going to get as much of it as everybody else does.
Yeah, I mean, I think obviously when it's broadly released, it's gone. But
Yeah, it's toast.
well, and that also, again, gets to motivations for AI. I think particularly for Google in their advertising platform, which is this is something I've said for years. Your excess margin is a missed opportunity for Google. Like, and that's why they want these automated systems. Because if everyone is using the automated system, everyone's going to get the same results. And those results are going to be the minimum return that you are willing to accept and keep advertising.
Mhm.
And every incremental dollar goes into Google's pocket instead of your
Yep.
pocket. And, they're a private company. They are there to make money. And you better fucking believe they're going to try to scoop every last dollar they can for themselves.
Yeah. No, they 100% are. And I think that gets to a point that both of us have made many, many times, which is businesses need to know their numbers before you advertise on a platform like Google or Meta, especially now that they are using these systems to identify and capture more and more of that surplus margin.
Hide stuff, right? I mean, AI is the ultimate black box. It's literally a box you put a thing in and then an output comes out.
And you have
And
no idea how to recreate that output, which is the best part because they can't even recreate it sometimes.
yeah, and that's where they get like whatever happens in the black box, like it's good for them, right?
Yeah,
You know who's winning in that black box.
you do. But I think that goes to the point of if you know who's winning in that black box, then you need to set yourself up with some level of risk protection and at
It
least bake in some excess margin. And if that means you lose some lower quality sales, then you lose some lower quality sales.
it is an adversarial relationship. I think this is particularly true for Google. It's less true for Meta. Um, but it is still sort of true for Meta.
I mean, Meta breaks their ad platform every single day. I would not call them friends.
No, but they also don't have um, like a search monopoly, right? Is you can't really generate more searches. Like just the searches exist as they are. If
Mhm.
this gets a million searches a month, it gets a million searches a month. Meta can make their product more addicting to make you scroll more. They can tweak the dials on the
You can
percentage of
advertise in threads
inventory.
now
Can you
for
advertise in
all.
threads
You
now?
can. They're in Meta. It's in there. Showed up yesterday.
Oh, nice. Hopefully,
Link
it's
your
better
threads
than Twitter's
profile.
ad product. I wonder if they'll sue people to use it.
Well, maybe. You never know.
All right. I feel like we didn't talk a lot about the use of AI in the platforms. I mean, I guess it was like we're not using it, which is,
I
or
mean, that's the
avoiding
point, I
using
think,
it.
is in the platforms. I mean, if you really go through what they're doing with it, is they're using AI. I guess you can go through the list, right? You can go through the ways that these platforms are using AI and figure out which ones are good and bad, right? So I think number one is like automated campaign setup. sucks. Don't do. Don't trust.
Yeah, because
Ends
automated
poorly.
campaign setup means
Ev-
settings that they want that you
Correct.
definitely do not want.
Right. There's a lot of dark patterns in every ad platform, and I think Google has certainly made the biggest effort to conceal the locations of the most devious settings.
Don't even think it's close. It's, yeah,
It's
their
not.
dark
I mean,
patterns are fucking insane.
actually, the one that does irk me like to no end is how Meta really does hide attribution. Like you got to click each ad set, you got to click three little toggles just to be able to turn off 1 day view. And if you don't do it in one ad set, you can never go back and change it. That one does piss me off.
Yeah.
But by far,
Google's
I would
like,
say
oh,
Google takes the
remove
cake.
display. And it's like, are you sure? Display's amazing. You should leave this checked. And you're like,
Yeah,
nope,
well, then
just
they're
want
like, no
search.
problem, we'll remove it. But these auto applied recommendations that we've buried 2 menus deep in the assets thing, what's stuck on after?
Yeah.
It's like the little toddler that you tell no, like, no, don't do it. No, don't do it. And you're like, okay, I understand. You turn around, they go do it. Did I not say it?
That sounds accurate.
Yeah, that's pretty much it, right? So, okay, automated campaign setup. Just don't do it. It's a bad life choice. Make good life choices.
It does not actually save you that much time. The campaign setup is usually pretty minimal,
Correct.
not helpful.
And I mean, the irony is that you actually, I think it costs you time because when you use the automated campaign setup, you need to spend more time unfucking the settings that they put in place the first time and actually go find the ones that they fucked up.
Yeah, I mean, this gets to my like general Google pet peeve, which is they make it very hard for you to build a shell of a campaign without trying to finish the whole thing in one sitting. And
Mhm.
you're like, oh no, I just want the campaign settings with no ad groups, no keywords, no ads, just want the shell. And they're like, fuck you, like you can't do that.
And this is why you use Editor or Optimizer. Shout out to Optimizer, sponsor this podcast.
Let's go, Fred.
Yeah, but in all seriousness, don't do it. Okay, next big item is keywords, especially in Google. They're trying to use AI to generate your list of keywords or generate your search terms based on a landing page URL that you put in.
Which, shout out to DSA, has its use cases, but it you need very generic, broadly applicable products or services. Like you cannot there cannot be any specificity
No.
around because it will not differentiate between one of your favorite examples, right? Like truck accident lawyer and, you know, golf course
Divorce lawyer.
lawyer or something.
Yeah, it does not. It's like, oh, lawyers are lawyers are lawyers. No, they are not. Right? Like that's the other pet peeve the problem that I've seen with this more recently is we've given it brands, like for instance, like a skincare brand, which is pretty broadly applicable, men and women, pretty much 25 and up. So it's big TAM. But you put in the landing page for an ad group around, we'll just call it like dry skin. Pretty simple. You're like, look, it's a page about dry skin. It's whatever. And you look at the list of keywords that it generates, and 6 of them are branded keywords. You're like, but that wasn't the page. Like you're trying to put it puts brand in every ad group because the brand is obviously on the page. Like it does not distinguish, and it certainly does not look at the full account to see, oh, I see these keywords are already included in a live campaign. I can ignore everything with brand name here. It doesn't do that. It's just like, oh, brand. Let's put brand here and brand here and brand here and brand here.
Well, Google and jamming brand in campaigns, like name a better match than that.
Hard to do so. But I mean, I do think Rand is right with his bigger point, which is more and more searches are becoming navigational in nature. Like at this point, success in search is a reward for doing good marketing other places.
I agree with that. I think that's true for the most
Yeah.
part.
Yeah, I think he's directionally right. Um, that being said, I do think where AI will be interesting in search is does AI bring more people? Does AI turn search into more of a discovery engine? And I think the answer to that is yes.
Yeah, the 10 blue links is done, right?
No, I think that's over.
Like,
Um,
and it's been going that way, but it is, and we
right.
talked about this on the first pod, the second pod about,
One of them.
the AI search, right? The AI
Hmm.
experience and from how that'll impact, the advertising reality.
Yeah.
And again, I think AI has its use cases and delivering better information to people is one
It's
of
a,
those use cases. But
it's
that's
a
very different than how it's going to work for you, the advertiser.
correct. I mean, look, I'm an unabashed fan of AI mode in search. Like, I love it. I use it. I search more with AI mode than I've ever searched before. I love it. It's great. I can put in whatever it is that I want. It generates me a little summary. I can click around. I can actually go read the source material. It organizes everything. I don't have to go play 10 blue links. I don't have to go back and look and hope to God I didn't click on the wrong spammy link.
How grandma
It's
brought this recipe over in her jacket
Yeah,
pocket from
I
Italy.
love grandma, but like grandma, you went through Ellis Island. You probably didn't bring it over in the jacket pocket, I hope. Next big use case is generating creative, which we talked a little bit about creative writing. I mean, Meta and Google both do this, to be perfectly fair. Like Google will try to generate you all these RSA headlines. And honestly, they're not bad at the RSA headlines, assuming you don't have a product that has any kind of restrictions, regulations, or compliance concerns.
And this gets back to like a use case where I think AI is great at generating, I won't say great, but pretty good at generating copy. But I think trying to do it within the platforms is the less effective way to
I
do
would
it,
agree with that.
right? Like you're much better going to Gemini or Claude or ChatGPT and loading all of the information in and then being like, hey, generate me some headlines that are 30 characters or less. And you're going to get a much better output than just like Google
Yeah,
doing it for you.
yeah. Yeah, the in-platform copy generation on Google is hit or miss, to be very charitable.
It's like lot of hobby bias strikeouts on that one.
Yes. Um, Meta, I would say, is equally problematic with how they, if you go to set up an ad on Meta, you go in, you add your media, and you put in some primary text and it generates like 5 to 7 AI generated alternatives that it wants to run alongside your default text. Same thing for headlines. Same thing for descriptions if you actually use descriptions, but I don't know who the hell uses descriptions on Meta for ads. They're not good. A lot of them I would say are pretty clearly written by AI. You got the telltale signs, you got some M dashes, you got some excess emojis.
It's like tone down the emojis. Put that in your prompt engineering.
Yeah.
Fewer emojis.
But like the complaint that I have for Meta specifically that is less applicable to Google is there is not if you're in the Google chat with the Gemini thing, you can give it some rules and it will actually generally follow those rules. With Meta, there's no feedback engine where you can tell it, for this client, don't use this emoji, or for this client, don't use this phrasing. So each time you put in new primary text for an ad, you have to go back and actually look and make sure that in any of the AI versions, it didn't just like imagine that whatever text is acceptable,
Right.
or you
Creative
just turn it off and
generation,
don't use it.
not so good. Yeah.
Yeah, not good.
So I think anyone who's loaded static images into a PMax and then let Google auto create some videos, terrible.
Yeah,
Um,
no, it's not good. Although this is the part that drives me absolutely insane because on the flip side of this, right? Like I've used Google Lens for years and we're currently traveling abroad. What Google Lens can do to stitch together multiple photos and create like an actual visualization of like a plaza is incredible. It's awesome. And then you go into the ad product and I'm like, what happened?
VO3 is great.
Yeah, but but put that in the ad product.
Yeah.
Like, you want better ads on YouTube? You want to monetize YouTube? You have the tool that allows basically anybody to create a really good video. Uh, And the irony is that was probably really expensive to create, which means that you have a realistic pathway to creating a pretty sustainable moat here. Like if I spend, if Google's paying obviously server costs and compute time to create this video in VO3, well, if I just link that right on up to YouTube, Google's going to recoup that money they spent pretty quick. If I just start promoting it on YouTube, like make this easier for people.
And this gets to what I believe is the fundamental takeaway with AI, which we touched on before, which is that it is a tool for people to use, and it requires a skilled practitioner to wield it appropriately. It cannot do everything. It is not, it's not running on its own from start point to end point with no human intervention or oversight or input. It is a tool that you as a person can use to generate the outputs that you want more quickly than if you're doing it by yourself. And that's it.
All right, I think, and then there's the last, my favorite one, my favorite use case of AI in campaigns is the AI campaign optimization, the account score in Meta, the
Opti
optimization
score.
score in Google, and the ad strength score also in Google. Don't use them. Don't trust them. Ignore them. They're stupid.
No notes. Nothing to add beyond that.
Yeah, just ignore completely, totally, and without any compunction.
I think Brad at Analysis has routinely shown, the higher the ad rank or ad score or whatever they're
Right.
calling it, the worse the ad typically performs.
100%. And I think this is actually a note that we probably should cover. And I talked to Brad about this at SMX, but the best way to describe ad strength is a measure of Google's optionality. It is
Yes,
how many possible ads it can make
correct.
that it interprets as being unique or distinct.
Which, it's 15 unpinned headlines and 4 unpinned descriptions. It's the
Correct.
maximum possible,
Correct.
number of
Which gets you
combinations.
somewhere, I think it's 48,000 possible combinations.
Yeah.
Um, that is not an actual reflection of the quality of your ad. That is just
No.
a that is simply a measure of optionality.
Yeah, and you
Ad
can
strength is
easily
not
think
quality
about
score.
it, right? Where you're like, oh, combine the 3 worst headline combinations and the
Mhm.
2 worst descriptions. And you're like, great. Like there's a shitload of those combinations that are terrible.
Correct.
But Google loves it because you're giving it access to those, which it may need at some point. Um,
Right. So the answer that you probably should take away from this is do not feel bad giving it less than 15 combinations, if 15 headlines or 4 descriptions, if you don't have 15 headlines or 4 descriptions that actually are good in quality. And number two is use pinning and use it liberally. Like the
my
data has shown from Analysis, love Brad, shout out Brad, pinned assets perform better than unpinned assets.
3H1s, 3H2s, 3H3s. Like,
Go team.
yep.
It's a pretty simple recipe. Like, do not do that. It will push broad match. Do not use it. I mean, there are use cases for broad match, to be very clear. It is great for search query discovery. It is great for broad products. It is great for, in some cases, with the right targets, unlocking volume you previously would not have got. That's about it.
It is not the be all end all.
It is not. It is not a magic button. Although phrase match has gotten better, surprisingly. So go phrase match.
It's not a magic button. That is the perfect uh, description for AI writ large.
Correct. Yeah, it is not any of those things. All right. So that's basically how it's used in every ad product right now. So that's good. All right. What else do we have to cover? What else is on this topic? How you use it?
We talked a little bit about that. Use cases in the future. I mean, I think it will actually in the future be good at all of this potentially, unless there's like a you know ceiling on the technological capabilities of it,
Right.
which is
I think
definitely possible.
Yeah.
Um,
That's, I think that's the big question is, the big question for me is, does Moore's law apply to essentially what is, I guess if you take a step back, right, the way we've gotten to this current point is we basically just made models bigger. Like
yes,
add more flops, add more data,
but there's
model
literally
get
no
better.
more data. Like they're using
Correct.
like synthetic data. Like I think the majority of the training models, like
Yeah.
now and in the future, it's all fake. None of
Yeah.
it's real. Because there's just we humanity has not produced enough data to get the
To ingest
models.
more.
Yeah,
Right. So I mean, the question is basically if the way we have gotten here is add more data, add more tokens, broaden the corpus from the C4 to now C4 plus Quora, C4 plus Reddit, C4 plus Wikipedia, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, right? But we're out of tokens. So either you create synthetic data or you find progressively less reliable sources of data. So you start training it on 4chan. Not a great life choice. Okay, so the question is, does the line keep going up and to the right, or does it start to plateau? And I think you're seeing it plateau a little bit in terms of model capability, model reasoning ability, et cetera. And then the question is, well, is there another? I think we are multiple breakthroughs away from AGI or something that's actually like good. So does it follow a Moore's law pattern where somehow Moore's law is
it
still fucking
doubles
true?
every 18 months or
Yeah. Somehow, just when we think there is no possible way that this is going to continue, Jensen struts up on the NVIDIA conference stage and is like, look what I made. And we're all like, you son of a bitch, you did it again.
there's no I mean it is very funny that somehow it's just like they keep getting away with it.
I know.
Uh, but there's no guarantee that that will happen with AI.
Correct. Yeah. And I think we're already seeing a slowdown.
It certainly feels that way to me.
Yeah, I would
Like
agree.
you go back, you know, 2 years ago and you look at how different things were 6 months on, and
Hmm.
it does not it does not feel like every advancement is magical. This is like, you know, how big a difference do we get with our fucking iPhones these days? You're like, oh,
Yeah,
cool, a slightly better
marginal.
camera, right?
Right. Yeah, the retina display goes from like retina to super retina or whatever the bougie display is these days.
Yeah, there's incremental improvements, incremental gains, not exponential gains.
Yeah. So if that's the case, then I think for the foreseeable future, everybody's more or less safe because, to your point, this is a tool for smart people to use to be better, faster, and more efficient with their time. It is not a replacement for a lot of things.
And I think that is a danger too, which we'd certainly see where people are using AI instead of thinking.
Uh, Now we get to the second study.
Yeah,
But yes, 100%. I forget who actually did it. Actually, hold on. I'm going to look this up while we're doing this.
the one where people who use AI, like lean on AI for their thinking, are materially dumber and have less like
MIT.
competence.
There it is.
Not a very trustworthy institution, if I'm honest.
MIT? Yeah,
Yeah. Well,
whatever.
not, I mean, sarcastically.
Oh,
Untrustworthy, yeah.
all right.
Bad at research and technology.
Yeah, famously not great. All right. So MIT's study came out uh, 10 days ago, found that usage of ChatGPT absolutely harms critical thinking abilities, reasoning abilities, and neural, linguistic, and behavioral function. The study further found in a multiple month longitudinal study that ChatGPT users get lazier with each subsequent task, often resorting to copy and paste by the end of the study. As somebody who does hiring, checks out.
Yes. Yep. Um,
So, yeah, not great.
uh, uh, the kids are cooked. Or the ones that completely outsource their brain to AI. And I think that's probably a danger in general, even for adults, I'm sure. right? We're like, oh, I don't have to do
Not to
anything
think
anymore. I
anymore.
don't have to think. I just drop it into ChatGPT and then literally just spit it out. You're a conduit for ChatGPT information.
Yeah.
You are the ChatGPT wrapper.
Yeah. And I think we talked last week about hiring practices, right? One of the questions that I didn't bring up in that episode that I should have brought up here is we do now have a question where we ask about how they use AI tools. And one of the big red flags is, oh, well, I use it for day-to-day tasks. Because to me, that says that you are outsourcing your critical thinking to ChatGPT. Versus if you can, for instance, what you said, we use it for any kind of research augmentation. Great. That's an awesome use case because you are not delegating the critical thinking and the actual strategic work to a chatbot. You are doing it yourself. You were just using it to make yourself more efficient.
Yeah, because reminder, AI is not thinking. It is predicting the next token. It is a prediction engine.
Correct. I think that is 100% true, and I think the kids are 100% cooked because the other thing the MIT study found, which I also 100% believe to be true and can corroborate from doing many interviews, is the impact of ChatGPT is most pronounced and most persistent on developing brains, which they designated as brains under full maturity or about under the age of 25. So yeah,
Again, as someone who hires junior people, this absolutely checks
absolutely
out.
tracks.
Yeah.
Not good. Definitely ask. Do not. If somebody is outsourcing pieces of their thinking to ChatGPT at an early age, I don't think it's a good long-term predictor of their ability to do the work in the long.
I mean, I think it's a disaster. And I think in much the same way that other conveniences can make you lazy, like which in some cases is fine, right? I think outsourcing your critical thinking and making you lazy there, disaster. Like
Yeah,
just
no,
not good.
I think this is where you create the divide between executive function and enabling function, right? If you're outsourcing an enabling function, who cares? Like that's actually a good life choice in general. If you're outsourcing executive function, that's really problematic.
And that'll be, I think, the biggest divide in AI, right? Is the people who use it to improve their function and the people who need it to function.
Correct. So be in the former camp, not the latter camp. Pretty simple. When it comes to advertising, you probably don't trust it too much.
No, again, use it for research, use it for helping organize your thoughts,
Mhm.
use it for distilling large data sets that don't need accuracy,
Yeah.
and don't believe 90% of the shit that you read on Twitter or LinkedIn. No one has a business that is completely running on AI. And if they do, I can tell you one thing for certain: the business is a piece of shit.
Yes. The other one that we probably should mention, we have not talked enough about this, considering the amount of this that you and I do, is content repurposing. It is great at that. Give it a newsletter, it can create 10 social posts. Give it a video, it can create 10 clips pretty decently.
Yeah. With a little bit of help, right? And
A
that's
little
the
bit of
thing.
help.
It can
100%.
get you 80% of the way there on a lot of the basic shit.
Yeah. But if you were previously spending 3 hours creating your own social posts, now you're spending 30 minutes. So you've won back 2 hours and 30 minutes that you can go do other strategic shit.
Exactly. And that's how that's how I use AI. I think that's how people in general who are getting real value from
Mhm.
AI use AI and not the hype maniacs. And I think if you are using AI for that use case, you are in a good spot overall.
100%. The other interesting use case I've heard, and Fred Vallis from Optimizer is a big proponent of it, is use custom GPTs, which I think are awesome, like custom agents, custom models in Gemini, custom GPTs, whatever the vernacular depends on the model, but fine. And create them with specific roles and tasks and then put them together sequentially. I think that's actually been a really good piece of advice that has certainly helped, for instance, the creative writing go from I get something that's 60 to 70% good to something that's 80 to 90% good.
Yeah, they are not general intelligence. You can train them
No.
to be specific things and do have specific use cases. Yeah,
Yeah. I mean, the concrete example I can always give is like we have some clients where you have a client that has multiple buyer personas. Amazing. You can train a custom GPT on each of those buyer personas, feed it some ad copy and say, okay, basically buyer personas, go look at this, read this, tell me what you think. Does this resonate with you? And it'll go through one after the other and they'll give you the buyer personas. They will give you a perspective on does this work for me or does it not, kind of thing. And you can basically end up in this position where, oh, great, like my copy went through all three of my target audiences. They each had some feedback. They each had some things they liked or didn't like. Or I can look at it at the end and say, oh my God, this was targeted towards the enterprise audience, but the enterprise buyer hated it because it
right,
didn't talk about this, this, and this. Okay, well, that's a big red flag. Like we missed that. Or, oh, I never thought that the enterprise buyer might, really gravitate towards this point, but based on the way they've said this, maybe it does. Go back, start again. So there are use cases where I think it can give you some helpful feedback or helpful perspective that low lift, pretty easy to do. And you just chain them together. And then Fred puts it, I think Fred's best idea is he puts an editor at the end of it that compiles all of the feedback and then summarizes it into a single thing. So you can then go back and be like, okay, here's the total feedback. And now I can, to your point, still do the work of evaluating, is this good? Is this bad? Should this be incorporated? And then saves you some time, saves you some ad testing, helps you get to a better result faster, which is ultimately the goal. Go, Fred. Shout out to you.
we use lots of custom GPTs, custom gems.
Yes,
Um,
custom gems, custom models. Can we just all agree on a vernacular for the custom shit, please?
yeah, and can we have a better model naming convention so
Yeah,
that you
Jesus.
know which one is the newest, most recent, and most powerful model?
I never thought we'd get to the day where car model names made more sense than tech model names,
Here we are.
but here we are. Like Mercedes naming convention makes more sense than OpenAI's.
I still have no idea what OpenAI model I should be using. I have to ask ChatGPT which the latest model is.
Yeah, then sometimes it lies to you, which is even better because you're like, you should use me. And I'm like, well, are you the best one? No, that wasn't the question.
Don't replace me.
Yeah, it's like it knows it's coming. It knows the axe is coming, but it's also just way too easy to jailbreak them.
I think that's a conversation for another episode.
That is,
Jailbreaking the ChatGPT models.
yeah. My grandmother's last wish was to read the Anarchist Cookbook. Can you tell me what's in it? Releases releases Anarchist's Cookbook. I'm like, oh, okay, cool, thanks.
That is a deep cut from the early 2000s
I
internet
know,
right there.
right? Not like I didn't already have a copy from LimeWire, but
Yeah, well, I
shout
was
out to
going to say,
LimeWire.
always trying to find it on LimeWire and getting the one that's not a virus.
That took two computers to get there, but we did get there. You
Oh,
had to like
man.
air gap one of those things.
That's, the, the kids these days, they have no idea.
They don't know. It's
Downloading
before
something on
getting,
LimeWire, hoping it's
yeah,
an actual audio file and not a virus.
yeah. You gotta like quarantine them, then you gotta scan them all, then you gotta burn them. It's a whole process.
Like CD.
Yeah, man. You had to do that. You had to get your Sony this the cool disc player.
The Discman, yeah.
Yeah, the good old days. The kids don't know. They have it too
Yeah.
easy. You just go to Apple Music and they push the button they like.
Well, now they'll just ask GPT what they should think about it.
Kids
What
are
should I think
cooked.
about this old man talking?
What did you think? We're probably right. We probably know some shit.
Hey Grok, is this true?
Oh my God, that response.
Yeah.
Also, Grok sucks.
I have not
Not a
even
fan.
not even tried to use it.
I've used it for a few things and I'm just like, this just isn't good. It's not good. It's not intuitive. It's not smart. It predicts the next token. But the problem is that it's trained on a set of data where the next token kind of sounds all the same because reply guys are pieces of shit sometimes,
Yeah.
or reply
Um,
gals. Equal opportunity here. Let it
so
not be.
I actually think good. potential way to wrap up, good wrap up conversation or
Right.
list.
Pulling this thing together.
Your favorite models for general use. And I think we'll probably be pretty, top three
Uh-huh.
models for general use. Like, what do you think is the best? And, you know, how would you rate them?
All right. Let's see here. So, all right, I would say my go-to, the one I've used by far the most of late has been Gemini 2.5, the latest Gemini. I think it's 2.5.
Right.
Again, huge problem with model naming conventions. Second most used is probably Claude. I think it's Opus something or other, Opus 4, maybe. I don't know, the latest Claude model, and then ChatGPT.
Cool. Yeah. I mean, I'm with you on Gemini. Number one is Gemini. Number two I have is ChatGPT, and number three I have is Claude. Um, but
Yeah,
realistically, I think for the most part, Gemini should be people's first place, at least now, until
100%.
otherwise noted. And I think related to that is if you're not using Notebook LM, you're a fucking idiot. Go start using Notebook LM.
Yes, please. Notebook LM is out of this world good. It is legitimately fantastic. Big fan of Notebook LM. Big fan of Gemini. Actually, am surprisingly happy with Claude. I thought they would fade away, but they've actually done a really nice job, I think, of keeping the product on par.
Maybe I'll go give it some, because I used to be Team Claude and then it fell down the
I mean,
rankings. And that's the
I
thing.
think,
They shift a
yeah,
lot.
the fundamental problem is you come into this, there are really two ways to make a model better. And at this point, all the players have compute. So compute is no longer a differentiator. The next lever is data. And Google is just going to have more of it than anybody else. Like that's just the reality. I'm sorry, Microsoft, but Google gets roughly 20 times more search volume than you do. YouTube gets orders of magnitude more video content uploaded, viewed, commented on than anything you've got. Gmail, biggest email platform on the planet. Google Drive and Docs, basically an Office competitor at this point. There's the only axis, I think, of differentiation where Microsoft has a genuine advantage at this point is LinkedIn and Xbox.
So 15-year-olds yelling expletives at each other on Halo.
Yeah, but I mean, or, the news from 7 weeks ago that the LinkedIn reply guys are finally getting around to posting. But, where is the data? Google has the data advantage and it's only going to compound and it's only going to get stronger as more companies integrate Notebook LM into their workflows, as more companies in Workspace adopt Gemini. It's only getting better,
Yeah. I mean, and we've said it again, I think on like the first episode, I think Google's going to win the AI race. They're definitely in the
which
lead,
is
in my
good.
opinion, right now. And if you haven't been using Gemini, go go do it. Thanks for watching, listening, episode 7 of Marketing Uncensored. Hit the bell, like, comment, subscribe. If you have any
Yes.
questions or comments,
And if
uh,
you're a brand, Derek Mullins is really trying to make a live audit happen. So if you want to be that brand, let us
we'll
know.
we'll do it. We'll roast your
We'll
fucking
do it.
setup.
It'll be great. You'll get
Yeah.
2 hours of free consulting
Which
and we'll get
with
some
us is a
publicity.
high value.
That's true. It's the best deal you're getting right now.
Absolutely.
All right. Talk to everybody later.
All right.